Recording live.
Hey, we're back. Another weekly update Q&A session between me, Alek Dincoff, and Steve Todd. We've got a lot to cover. You've been a worldly traveler, man of the world. And you also are, not to forget to mention, the founder of opensourcedworkplace.com. So,
Alek, thank you. I appreciate your time and appreciate your flexibility over the last few weeks. Yeah, as you mentioned, I've been traveling here, there, and everywhere. And what sort of feels like it, my body certainly feels like I didn't know where I was or what I was doing half the time. But yeah, I spent a week in London and then dragged my weary body from London to San Francisco, which was an 8-hour time shift for a few days before flying back to New York. So back in New York since Saturday morning. Yeah, it's trying to get my body an even keel. I think almost there. I struggled a little bit this morning, but yeah, feeling much better now. Maybe I'm still in San Francisco time, so that's why I feel okay right now. But yeah, really busy weeks. London was great. I was there. I looked at 17 buildings, I think, whenever I was there for the time I was. Really impressed with London in a building perspective. The quality of the building that they're producing there right now is such a high standard that having searched for an office in New York last year, having a look at a lot of the developments that are going up in New York's way behind where London is. Just so impressed with the amenities and the sort of level of finishes that are actually in the building, how engaging they are. And how they're repurposing land in London. Really impressed. And then San Francisco was fortunate enough to attend a conference called CoreTech. It is a small growing conference that is specifically focused on how technology's influencing the real estate world. And it really was cutting edge, looking at where the developments are, what really the top companies in the world are doing as it relates to technology and real estate. So this is where presentations from real estate executives from Facebook, Google, Airbnb, all the top technology providers are also there presenting some of their use cases and case studies. So really insightful. Got to engage and meet a lot of new people. Got to meet and see some friends, meet people who have been connected with but never had the opportunity to meet face to face. So that was really good and really nice as well. And as I said, got to catch up with some good friends as well. So yeah, back in New York now, getting ready for a nice long weekend with Thanksgiving coming up this week. So yeah, but all good. What about you? How have you been?
I've been all right. It's good to hear you made it safe. Sometimes traveling can leave the body weary.
Yeah.
No sickness, it looks like. You seem high-spirited, so that's good.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Waiting for Thanksgiving to take place. We run the gauntlet in my family, where it's 3 or 4 different sides of families, and we try and pack it all in one day. It is tiring, it is obnoxious, and I guess it's family. So
there you go.
That's what we've got going on. But I did want to touch on, so you were in London, and you mentioned a few different details of what they're doing. What did anything really stand out? Same question for San Francisco. You said you saw a bunch of different companies, a lot of presentations, met with a lot of people. Did something stand out that you're like, hey, this is important to me, important to open source workplace? It's important to just the general scheme, or this is game change? Anything that really stood out?
I think the common thread, if I was to take London, what I was doing there, and also what I seen at the conference, employee and workplace experience is going to such a level. You see it in how the actual buildings are being delivered in London, with the employee experience and the occupants in mind. To give you an example, the buildings that are going up are actually being including some bicycle racks. And I sort of give you the size of what this means. The buildings that are going up are providing 1,300 and 1,400 bicycle racks, with also shower facilities. Where basically they have their own entrance into the building, go into the basement, have showers, changing rooms, everything there, so they can basically get changed and then go up into the office space. The amenities and the way they're designing these buildings is it's incredible, and it's just fascinating. And you don't see anything to that scale in New York or San Francisco or other locations. You just don't. And an element of it, of course, is the amount of people that want to drive in the US, with London having that the center where you have to pay to access it in a car, sort of limits how many people want to take a car into the city center, and a lot of people want to cycle and use other methods of transport into the actual office. So I guess that helps. From the conference, a lot of people were talking about how technology, real estate, and bringing those things together to enhance the employee experience. So what tools can a landlord or a building provide to help the experience? How can companies augment that technology to enhance an employee experience? And how then can I take it to a workplace experience as well? So those were I'd say, the common threads that came through. I've heard it at other conferences. From what I understand, I hadn't attended this conference before. The experience wasn't really spoke to that level, or I guess had that much of a prominence, I guess, in the actual conference. It was such a common theme that sort of came out of almost every presentation, that's what people are focusing on. Just to give you a quick example, there was the executive from Facebook was presenting his use case of how he creates the Facebook employee experience. So he was, tactical information he was providing to the audience on how Facebook is creating an employee experience. Really, really great stuff that isn't well known or out there. So it was really, really interesting, really, really good, really, really engaging as well. So I'd say that would be the common thing.
Very good. Very good. Well, it's exciting that you got to experience it, right? Staying in and around the industry. How did you get work done on a plane? That's because a lot of people, whether it be someone who wants to travel and work or someone who is forced to travel and work, do you have any secrets, or how did you manage? Because obviously, home, well, you're not exactly from here. Your accent definitely gives it away. So even if you want to go get the cultural ties, it's a long plane flight, but life doesn't stop just for a plane ride. Is there?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. It's tough, and what I almost had to do was, it's like you sort of look at, all right, so we look at the commute, then we look at, okay, so I'm trying to segment my life to be part of NASDAQ, what I'm doing there, but also what I'm trying to do at open sourced. When I'm traveling in that situation, I have to be 100% focused on what I'm there to do. So open source workplace had to take a backseat for me. It just had to, because I had to be 100% on my game when I'm attending a conference or when I'm in London doing my work. To give you sort of an idea of the intensity with which I was working, I sort of flew overnight, landed in London on a Wednesday morning. That day, I then toured 7 buildings all around London, and I was doing 23,000 steps per day. I then did 10 buildings the next day, so 17 buildings in 2 days. Then after that, you're meeting with architects, you're meeting with landlords, trying to understand what deal terms may look like. So it was really interesting, just in a sense of, you have to prioritize. And I've always, said, we've talked about these before, how do you set and how do you understand what you need to be doing? Basically, your work dictates what you need to be doing, and therefore I had to focus on NASDAQ. I didn't really post anything on open source over the last 10 days. I post one thing when I was in London. Yesterday was the first day that I really mentally had the energy and capacity to actually do anything open sourced. And I had a series of articles there ready to publish, which I published yesterday. But again, it's all about setting, okay, what am I here to do and what needs to be done? What do I need to do to ensure I have the energy and the ability to do it? So the big thing for me, London, as I said, on my feet continuously, sleeping when I could. I would say eating healthy, but that wasn't true either. Going back to my roots and having access to all the treats that I can't get here, it's really hard for me not to have those when I'm there. So I had a few little things that maybe I shouldn't have had, but it was all good. The biggest challenge for me was taking my body from London to San Francisco. That's an 8-hour time difference. Being there for 2 days, I felt it mentally. So to give you an example of what it was, my first day in San Francisco, I woke up at 1 a.m. in the morning and I couldn't get back to sleep. So to get up and be engaged in a conference was very challenging. It came to the point where late afternoon and into the evening, I didn't know what was going to come out of my mouth, only because I was so tired. I manage this by not having any alcohol and things like that when I'm on these things, because my body just can't handle it. So I just got to be careful. But I physically just had to be careful and try and limit the amount of conversation I get into. I'm sure there was people there probably thought me, who is this guy? He's just an idiot. But a lot of it was just the fact that I had no idea what was going to come out of my mouth. But anyway, I had fun and I enjoyed it, you know.
Well, no place like home. We're glad to have you back.
No, it's good to be home. It really was. It was so good to get home on Saturday. I was so happy.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's no sleep like your own bed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that raises the question. You've come back, open source workplace, you were able to post. What was the feel going from, no, you really cannot work on this, like whether you want to or not, you can't, and then being able to come back and get in your old routine? Does it feel good? Is it exciting? Is it like a refresher for you?
No, it felt good. It felt really good. It did. It felt like I was coming home to my baby almost, you know what I mean? And I felt guilty not doing and working on the site while I was traveling. But again, it's just having to look at the bigger picture, right? So open source workplace for me is a long-term thing. NASDAQ is here and now, and I have to deliver that every day. You know, that's my first responsibility. That's what pays my bills. That's what allows me to do open source workplace. That's where I have to have my focus and energy. So I'm in my own mind okay with that. But it was good to get home. It was good to work on things. And it was good to allow my brain to start working and focusing on it again. It was really nice. A few little things that I did post that I was really happy with. I got some really good content. There was a piece of content I published yesterday that when I set the assignment, I was unsure what I would get in return. So to give you the idea, I asked a writer who hadn't written anything for me per se. They have been putting together my glossary. So what I'm trying to do is build up 365 glossary terms related to workplace and employee experience. And we're about 80 of the way through. So I thought I'd give them a slightly different task. And I asked them to put together 100 productivity tips that someone can actually apply in the workplace. I honestly was expecting I asked for 100, and I honestly thought if I could get to 50, I'd be really happy. If there is 50 there or it's 100, it's just bullet points, okay, that's okay. But honestly, what this guy created was brilliant. I mean, he put together a 6,600 word, 100-point productivity. And it is a variety of different aspects that you go through and you kind of go, okay, that's okay, I get that. And then you go through and it just keeps going. All different ways on tools you can use, how to look after your body, how sleep, your mental clarity, how exercise impacts, how you utilize your time, how you engage with other people to maximize productivity. It is fantastic. So I ask everybody to go and have a search, go to Open Source Workplace, have a look at 100 productivity tips to help you in the workplace. It's fantastic. I was blown away. It was really, really, really good. And then another one was a book review. I don't know if you heard the book, How Google Works. It's a brilliant book. It was written by Eric Schmidt, former CEO. And, you know, often, especially when you work in real estate, everybody aspires to, one, have an office that looks like Google, and two, recruit people like Google recruit. And it's really interesting where this book breaks down the thinking behind how Google does what they do. And their whole culture is, we want like-minded people to come to like-minded people and meet with like-minded people. So what they want to do, if we create from day one, if we create an environment that we want, we're going to attract the people that are going to like this environment too. And they've just continued to do those things. And they've put together a whole series of different rules. And when I say rules, what I mean, their sort of culture, their guidance, the sort of principles that they sort of work towards. And they have a rule of 70, 20, 10. So 70% of an employee's time is spent on the core business. 20% is working on side projects that people want to do. And 10% of the time is working on things that are just like so far out there that actually that's what takes Google to the next level. They also praise people for failing. So they want people to push the boundaries, push limits for that 10%. And even if you don't quite get to something brand new, their experience has taught them that actually you're going to find little nuggets that actually just provide someone else input to make that another product much simpler. You know, if you look at as a real simple example, if you take the images, so you can basically put an image into Google search bar and it will find that image somewhere else, right? So the genesis of that was Google was trying to figure out, how do we ensure whenever people of a certain age are looking for a topic that they don't get pornographic images don't come up whenever they were searching. So they were writing an algorithm and software to actually eliminate those searches. And from that, they actually generated that technology to run those different things. So it's like by looking at these different projects, they actually, the way they do their things and how they sort of connect people within the organization, other people can actually see how they work on different things and actually take the principles and examples and using someone else, use it by someone else. Another little anecdote is, I think Google having an issue with AdSense. Eric Schmidt, basically, or Larry Page, I'm sorry, the CEO, one of the founders, actually pinned on a notice board the problem he was having with this certain algorithm. And some people walking past on a Friday afternoon, seen what he had put on the notice board, spent the weekend coming up with a solution, and they rolled it out on Monday morning. That's sort of the level of how they work and what they aspire to do. You know, while other organizations may look at them and think, okay, we want to create a workplace that looks like them. We want to hire talent that is like who Google hire, but actually are not prepared to put all those other things in place to recruit, hire, and attract that level of talent. So it's a really good summary that's been put together, and I think they're fantastic.
That's amazing. Now, the book review, it sounds like everybody should read it if they get the chance. If not, read the entire book.
The book review is really good. To get the book, and the book review is an insight, right? It's going to give you a really good taste of what's in there. The book then applies all the principles and all the things that are summarized, and actually gives you those real tangible evidence and examples of how the principles have been applied. But yeah, as I said, the review gives you a really nice summary. But no, definitely buy the book. It's a great book.
Fantastic. Well, good that you're sharing that quality content with everyone and getting that glossary in order.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So as you're at 80, and you remind me, you wanted to go to how many terms?
365.
365. Okay. That's a big jump.
Yep.
Can you break it down to what you have now and what you want to have? I guess what you've got going on in the back of your mind.
Yeah, no, it's 365 because there's 365 days in the year, right? And that's why I've come up with that. And the intent is, I often do things where what you see is not always what I'm planning or what I've got in the back of my head. So I want to build a glossary of 365 terms. The reason I want to build 365 terms is because I want to create an Alexa program for 365 days where you can read every single term. So basically people can go to Alexa, what is this for workplace? What is that for workplace? And it's going to all be right there. Now, yes, I'm telling everybody what I'm going to be doing, and somebody may beat me to it. That's okay. But in essence, that's sort of where I'm thinking about. I'm trying to create different aspects of, someone may see the glossary and say, oh, that's really useful, but I'm trying to create multiple benefits and multiple ways to actually use it. So the whole concept behind it is to create an Alexa product.
That's the next level for a lot of businesses, taking voice.
Yeah.
Soon everything's going to be voice activated, voice in our home, voice, whether we're driving or something else is driving us, right?
Yeah. And Alexa's been deployed a lot in the workplace these days. So, you go into any, I shouldn't say any, a lot of new video conferencing rooms are having Alexas put in it, and Alexa's able to connect to the video conference. You start the conference, it just comes up and away you go. Voice, to your point, right, removes so much friction from carrying out any task. For your eye to go and have a look, sit down. We talk about how hard this is. You have to go sit at a computer or pull out your phone, you have to click on the thing for Google to actually wait for Google to come up. You got to type in what is, and the answer comes up. That takes a lot of effort, where therefore you just go, hey Alexa, what's this, and it just tells you. We're just trying to eliminate as much friction as we can, and that's what voice is going to do. Alexa's got a long way to go as all the voice activated technologies, but they're going to get so clever as we move through things. So
it's a wonder in and of itself that we're now to the point where we're just trying to maximize seconds off our day just by turning things to voice, but those seconds add up.
For sure they do. I often, we talk about taking seconds off because we want to increase some productivity. We forget how hard it was, 10 years ago before we even had the iPhone, because you couldn't even do it on your phone. You actually had to go and sit down at your computer because not very many people had laptops. So you might have had to wait till you got home to do it, But absolutely, we're just trying to eliminate as much friction as we can. And we do that in the office, in the workplace, because time, dollars, everything, just it all adds up. Seconds just make the difference. And one of the biggest time wasters in an office is setting up a video conferencing. It is by far the most wasted time and energy ever in the office. You have a meeting with 10 people, it always takes 5 minutes to start. It just always does. It's just the biggest drainer of time and energy and resources.
It looks like you speak out of long experience.
I sure do.
Well, we have just enough time for probably this last question. You said that's the biggest time waster, where it's consistent and it always happens. Do you have a pet peeve for the workplace for time wasting? Just since we're on the subject and we can keep it a little lighter going toward the end of this conversation.
I guess the pet peeve, it's good. I never really thought of it. I would say that's one, right? Because I don't like time wasted. Well, the other thing that is a peeve of mine, I guess, is when you dial into a video conference and you're the only one on the phone, you realize how much rubbish gets talked throughout a conference, throughout a meeting. So many people just talk about things that are just not important and you're why there. But when you're in the room, you don't feel it the same. When you're on the phone and not part and engaged in the conversation, it's quite amazing actually how much more productive you want to be. And I guess that would be one. And the other one has been CC'd in emails that you just don't need to be. That would be sort of my top peeves, I guess. But before we go, there is one thing I sort of wanted to sort of mention that's sort of been going through my head as I sort of, go on my journey with open sourced. And it's a lot of it came from the IFMA conference that I presented at and some of the questions that I got and received after that. And I sort of came to a decision in my own mind is that up to now, I would say almost all the content, and I only say almost because I've posted a couple of contents, but anyway, I'm actually going to start writing and creating my own content as well on open sourced. The reason being that, I can have writers write things and write great content and things that are very general and high level and sort of overarching. But where I think I have a real opportunity is, I'm actually in the field and I'm working it, and it's how do I take my views, right or wrong, but how can I give people a framework and something to follow, even if it doesn't fit what they need at that time. They can at least have something to start with, something to think about, and then can sort of tailor it to fit their needs and their organizations. So I've put together about 4 articles now. I've buried them in Open Source Workplace. I haven't highlighted them, but people may be able to find them because they're not going to be there with any author noted against it. But I've put 4 articles out there thus far. And a lot of them are tailored to really help people. I hope they help people. And that's sort of the intent and the spirit with which I put it together. So I'm going to try and do my own content. The writing, you'll probably also notice, is probably not as high a standard, but I hope that people forgive me for that. But hopefully, as I said, people find a lot of use for it.
Well, you're in the thick of it. So whether your opinion is right or wrong, your knowledge is on par with the industry. So that wisdom is huge.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sure anyone who reads the article should be thanking you.
Maybe.
Well, with that, I will say thank you very much, Steve, for joining us again today. As always, we're here every Monday. Whether you're on Facebook, you can catch us there, or check these videos on Open Source Workplace later. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.